Hello, everybody. This is the WREXtra Time. We are live. I am Paddy Power, and this is the local pundit. We have just completed our match versus Lincoln, and we have won and taken the 3 points with a 1-0. Now, this is the call-in show. It is about what you guys want to talk about. So, if anybody is interested in popping in to say hi, to answer a few questions, to make a few comments, by all means, do so. If not, put all your comments in the chat and we will try and show as many as possible. And we do have our first guest coming in this evening. He hasn't been with us for quite a while, but we love him all the same. It is the Red Horse Sean Driver.
Hello. How are you, Paddy? It's been a while.
It has been a while, yes.
Things are good?
Yeah, things are good. We miss you over here.
I guess it smiles about when you take 3 points, even if you're like, that wasn't the prettiest performance we've ever had. I think that's going to influence the mood. And I'm going to caveat this. I'm wearing this silly hat because I keep talking on our show about the power of the toque. And I got told, you got to put the toque on. And I didn't have my Wrexham one, so I grabbed my kids, which was sitting next to me, throw it on top of my head, and it's not 30 seconds later, and it's in the back of the net. And we go up and nil. And so now there's chat about me having to wear this for the entire Christmas season. And it looks ridiculous. It's for a 3-year-old, and here I am, plucked it onto the noggin. So that's the reason why I'm wearing a stupid hat. Long may it continue, I guess.
Who needs a reason to wear a stupid hat?
Yes, I suppose. We'll see if we end up marketing me somehow. That's how it's been.
Yes, so let's see who's in the chat. We had one stream up. We had it dump out on us. Josh was touching buttons in the background. He dumped the stream for some reason. Maybe he had two. And I nearly had a heart attack because it just dropped on me. But this is the new one. This is working. So we're probably still waiting for a couple of people to figure out that they're on the wrong stream or the old stream or what have you. So people will be in shortly. But because of that, Glenda got first, which is amazing.
Always important.
That always important. Yeah, we are going to play that game till the end of time, I think.
Yeah, I've never quite understood it, but I'm also one of the people who types in first whenever I get the opportunity. So I think it's just, you have to do it. Don't get it, don't care. In Josh we trust. No, I appreciate the invite. It's been too far removed for me joining these. Did them last year where we had people cross platforms and all that sort of stuff. And I still appreciate and love the fact that you guys are continuing to do what you do here at the local pundit with as frequent videos as you guys are getting out. I haven't been able to do that. We finally got our house back after the fire, sold it on another one, renovating. If I was to turn this camera, you would just see boxes and stuff all over to the side of me, but we're getting closer to wrapping everything up. And as a consequence, I've finally able to start getting things going on our channel as far as the other videos that we do. So hopefully that may continue. But I'm curious, we chatted just before we got on about that 3 points and what your thoughts were on it. I think you're more positive about the 3 points and the performance that was there than I am.
It wasn't a great performance by any means. We had our moments where we were dominated. The first half wasn't amazing. It looked like we were lacking a little bit of speed to me, but considering it's a new style, we got the win. We did have multiple chances that did not go in. So Palmer, again, with the duality here, he is working his ass off, but there were moments there that he should have completed, and there were a lot of times he lost the ball as well. His touches are not great.
But the effort's there, and he's got the legs. And I said to somebody at the start of the season, if you would have told me that Palmer was our top option coming off at the game at some point in time, I would have hit the panic button. I would have been like, something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's not that bad. I think for me, I mean, we looked at the stats afterwards, and we were looking at how many missed shots there were. But the stat that stood out to me that was against the role of or the flow of what I was seeing was how many shots within the box they had. The teams were equal. It was 10 shots in the box for both sides, and I went, really? It seemed to me that they had lots of opportunities. How many decent opportunities did they push wide? 5?
Yeah, they definitely had their chances. Now, we also have Marie from SoCal in the background, and I hope she's ready because I'm going to bring her in and we'll see. Marie, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Welcome,
Hi,
welcome.
Marie.
Hi, Sean. I'm so glad to see you. The thing that's really impressed me the last two games is that Parky has changed it up. At one point, they were saying, "Oh, they've got our number. They know how we play." Right? We have changed it up the last two games and proved that we can play a different game, and it's been so impressive. And yes, it's been ugly, and yes, it's been difficult, but they've done it, and they've got the points out of it.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see us be able to switch our style for different matches. Now, maybe that'll come. Maybe we'll decide not to continue this for the rest of the season. But it would be very good to have more than one string to our bow. We've been talking on this for a while.
I like the fact that it's not a wholesale change, and I know that people are saying, "Oh, this is we've gone from the 5-3-2 to a 3-5-1-1." Really, what's the substantive changes that have happened we see on the pitch? I mean, Lee is really doing what Mullin would do as far as his location on the pitch, right? More towards the center, coming back towards the back line. I don't, as far as the two striker interplay, I haven't noticed a demonstrable, like a massive change. But the one part that of the new setup, and maybe it's just today, that I didn't understand, and that I'd like to see the return back to is swapping. If you have a midfield triangle that you're playing, we've always had Lee on the left, Cannon and or Rathbone on the right, and Dobson towards the keeper in that triangle. We had Matty James in Dobson's position and Dobson up on the right side where Cannon or Rathbone usually are. And that part made me scratch my head. Hi, Nick. And when I was watching the game, and we were frustrated because what we felt that we needed were better touches, and Matty James closer to goal. And Matty James can bring that. His passing, I think, is exceptional. And Dobson's strength is not his passing, not his offensive play. He's doesn't have offensive prowess. And I'd like to see that inverted. So I'm with you, Marie, on it's nice to see some changes. I'm with you in the sense that it seems to be less hoofball, more through the deck. I'm still a little bit suspect in areas, but at the end of the day, we've got 6 points in the last two matches, so who the hell am I to complain?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I thought about when I listened to Men in Blazer's Raj interview with Parky is it's the most I've really heard Parky reveal, right? And so I was thinking about it, and Parky is a great student of football, right? But he's a great student of whatever league he's in. And he is really good at figuring out how he can win in the league that he is in. And so at one point you were thinking Wrexham is going to play this certain style and we're either going to win or lose. But then all of a sudden in the middle of it, he throws in this different formation, this different lineup. He's confused the other teams. And I think that is very important. Parky is brilliant.
I don't know, Marie, did you watch the Men in Blazers broadcast that they did in Vancouver?
Yes, I did.
Because he chatted there about the strength of the system that they have in Wrexham, and that it allows for modifications that are small, but the system itself is dynamic. And I think what he's done is made those small modifications that you talk about to add that dynamic change in small incremental steps and changes.
Yes.
I don't know whether it's in response to each club, because Exeter City and Lincoln City are two very different styles, right? You've got disruptors, is what I called Lincoln City. Exeter City, I call them mishandlers. They've got a great goalkeeper and nothing else in Exeter. I'm not impressed with them as a club, but he's I don't know if it's because of personnel. I don't know if it's because of competition, but whatever it is, it's worked. And so whatever criticisms I may end up throwing at Parky or anybody does, I think that has to come with it.
I think he's doing an interesting thing where you have to play the team that's in front of you, which he's doing. but he's also taking it to a different level, which we're not probably, I didn't think about it another. He's thinking about the league, right? He's thinking about how every team is playing and how he can get his team to the top, in either into the playoffs or the top two. And so that really, for me, has resonated in the last couple of games.
This isn't, as I see it, out of the blue. Earlier in the season, we were playing more football on the ground. We were passing nicer and more fluid. And I thought that was interesting. And then it didn't seem to be working. And it looked like we went back to our older style. And I think this was kind of always planned. And maybe it just happened to be a bit too early in the season. So he swapped back to the standard, and now he's reintroducing it again. Because as Sean was saying, the layout hasn't changed very much. The 3-5-1-1 versus 2. It's a very small change in reality. But
aren't you think we're playing more on the ground right now?
We are, absolutely, but that is the thing. Normally you would play more on the ground with the 1-1 formation up the front. But it is very dynamic, and we are still dropping longer balls up there. And if we get both styles working well together, where we are comfortable on the ball, that we're not going to be run over if we try and keep it at the feet, and then we also have our quick attack over the top when it's open, or whenever we're caught in midfield, or that, we will become a much stronger team and a much more dangerous team. And I hope that's where it goes. Some of the newer players that are a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, they start coming into the team, give us a bit more speed. And if we can keep a dual attack available, then we could become a really, really solid team for the second half.
Now, the interesting thing that I know Josh was talking about, the Scar O'Connell.
Yes.
Scar, I feel, is much more of a defensive player. However, O'Connell, he pushes the ball downfield more.
And he's comfortable with running with the ball.
Yes, and that has changed, and that's why I think O'Connell is in and not Scar.
Yeah, I definitely think Josh is pretty much on there. But so the question would be, in the last 2 matches, have we looked more solid around the front of the box or not? I would argue no. We have looked weaker.
Yeah.
But for that loss, in the defensive side, we are pushing forward more. We are attacking more through the middle, through the feet. And is it worth losing that? And is it something Scar can't do? So this is another question too.
We played 2 games and we've won. So what is the answer?
Well, there is no easy answer, but what my point is that we could have lost both those games.
But we didn't.
Oh yeah, of course we didn't, and there's nothing wrong with that, because in fairness, there's very few matches that you play where at the end of it you can say there was never a chance we were losing that. If things go right and if things go wrong in different ways, then goals go in from both sides normally, in those scenarios. So it's not that often you do that. So I'm not saying we should be able to do that. I'm not asking for us to dominate the league entirely, but it's just a point. Our defense was weaker, but maybe it's more dynamic, and maybe it pushes up into the middle more and gets the movement working more. And it's always about trade-offs. If you put this player on, he's a little bit faster, but he can't do this. If you have Burton in goal, he comes out and he dominates his area, his box more, but maybe he's not as good a shot stopper as Ale.
Yep.
So it's always about trade-offs and playing with them and seeing what those trade-offs are. And do you gain more than you lose? And do you lose nothing that is critical? Which is his job.
With this team that we're putting forward right now, are we gaining? Would you agree with the lineup, both of you?
I think that if you're going to go with this lineup where you're going with EOC and you're sacrificing the defense in order to have EOC's offensive control, the biggest frustration that I have, and the one that doesn't make sense to me rationally, is why is Matty James the midfielder who's immediately in front of the back line and not Dobson? And I think the only way that you can answer that is you want James's touch to facilitate advancing the ball more than you want Dobson and his defensive prowess. And you can't really take Dobson off because of his defensive prowess. But I think that part of it doesn't make any sense to me. To me, I think the luxury is, and I'm curious to hear Paddy's take on this. I think that Parky plays his top 11 that he sees at the day, irrespective of who he plays. And I'm curious as whether my perspective on that changes, and he starts to change it up depending on who he has in front of him, right? When we start to play, ignore the Barnsley game and look to the rest of December, we've got teams that are lower on the table. Do we start to give Dobson a break and not play him as frequently because we want Matty James's offensive touch and we want Cannon's ability offensively up front? Because we're going to have to break a team down with possession and change our style again. And that I'm curious to see if it changes, or if Parky just says, this is my best 11, let him go.
Yeah. I have a different take on that, which is not necessarily, I don't think he's going to worry about individual teams too much. My worry or / my question is, what is he going to do with our away matches? Because if you have the two separate styles, and let's say we treat them completely separate, if you ask me going forward, if I could only pick one for the rest of the season, what would I choose? At home, it would be a very hard choice because we were winning at home. With the old style, with our style, we were winning enough. We weren't losing matches. We were getting the odd draw. So in theory, there's no need to change that. Your chance of gaining more versus the risk of losing is too high for me. But he has now done it in 2 home matches. I want to see what this does in the away matches, because we are not winning our away matches comfortably at all. And we're not looking good in the away matches. So will this style do better there? Can it improve our 1.2 or whatever ratio we have for points on the away matches up to a 1.6 or a 1.7, which add that to our home side, and we will really be competing.
1.13.
There you go, 1.13, close enough. I was trying to be nice. I thought it was going to be nice.
Do you think Parky looks at the training that's going on during the week and makes an evaluation?
I think that's his largest influence myself. What I think whoever's performing best is the 11 he tends to go with. He may adjust his style a little bit, but I think it's largely dependent on the players.
So Bob Barson wasn't even on the bench today. So you think maybe he didn't have a good training session this week?
Maybe he had a slight knock.
So let's talk about Barnsley coming up.
Okay.
Now, did they win today? I didn't look.
They drew Reading, I thought. No, Huddersfield drew Reading. Who did Barnsley have today? Today was all about how would you feel if you were a Stockport fan? Everybody around them pulled points. Yeah, they drew Reading. There was a last-minute goal by, 72nd minute, I guess, by Barnsley to pull that one back. Wickham being the frustrating one with their 93rd minute goal.
Hated that.
So I've only seen Barnsley once this year, and that's the challenge that I have is I don't know enough about them to really be able to assess their style accurately. I'm just looking at...
As it stands, they're sitting in 6th. 27 points after 17 matches. So they've played the same number as us. And they're 7 points behind us.
So has anyone watched Barnsley? Are they more... What type of team are they?
I watched them play against, I believe it was Rotherham, I want to say. And it was a scrambly game, and I don't think it was indicative of either side. The reality for me is when you have Keller Dunn in the lineup, and you've got scoring up and down your lineup, which is what they have. Their offensive focus, their defense, I don't think is bad. I'd have to go back and check the table. I don't think their goals against is necessarily bad, but they're a team that comes with a lot of different options is how I remember. It wasn't just one style. Like in that 90 minutes, you saw them on the deck, through the air, playing through the middle. They just kind of went with what was.
So would you, okay, if you were the manager against Barnsley, would you play the current team that we just played, or would you go back?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm going back.
So you'd play Mullin coming in.
I'm talking backline. To me, the strikers, it doesn't matter. Nobody's scoring up front anyway. That's okay. Reality. Palmer's doing all right, but nobody's lighting it up front.
So some points here on Barnsley for a sec. They have scored 26 and conceded 22, so they're only on a +4 goal difference. Which isn't great, obviously. They have been on a bit of a slide. The last 5 matches, they have a win away, a win at home, a draw, a loss, and a draw.
But it seems like when teams come to Wrexham,
they step up.
They want to step up.
But at home, we've been managing. They have been giving us a hard time, but they haven't been winning. You know, we've only had a couple of draws. But yes, they're a strong team. They're up the top end. So the argument would be this is the type of team you should be comfortable taking a draw. If it happened, you would be aiming for the win, but a draw would be okay. They also are playing a 3-5-2 as well. And up front for them, they have Davis Keeler-Dunn, DKD, who they took from Mansfield.
Who would be manning him? Who would be guarding?
He's typically left side, so I think that's going to be the Barney Cleworth side.
Oh, so it's going to be Cleworth.
If I recall correctly.
Should be Cleworth, yeah. Should be Cleworth.
They're a mid-table possession team. They don't have a lot of accurate passes. In fact, they're one spot behind us as far as accurate passes. They lead, or are they second? They're second for long balls. And so if you want to talk about hoofball, perhaps you can pull that from the statistics. And they're just behind us in crosses. So it looks like its aerial attack is going to be the way that it goes. And when I look at a team that's as diverse as they are in attacking from what I saw, and the stats are a little bit belie that logic, but what I saw, and you look at a team that's going to go through the air, and as the statistics say, I want to have my best aerial defense up there, and I want to have Dobson in the back line to deal with them if they run at us. And so that's why I say we revert back. But what do you do when you got 6 points on the current present form? So I can see it going either way.
Also to note, Barnsley are playing Bristol Rovers in the FA Cup this Saturday, which we are not because we've been knocked out. So our match is next Tuesday.
On Tuesday, okay.
Yeah, so they're going to have.
Are they play in the cup game? Who are they going to play?
Well, obviously that's up to them. But at this stage, Bristol Rovers, that's from their own league.
So I guess my question is, are they more concerned with the cup, or they're more concerned with the league?
I think you go 3/4. I mean, I'm not the official for Barnsley, but I think you give 3/4 of your full strength. The FA Cup's no joke.
It's not now.
And you get into the third round, and now you have the chance to draw a prem.
Draw a Premier team. It's important for teams.
The roll of the dice.
I think they will be going stronger rather than weaker. So that would be saying yes, it's tiring out some of their players for Tuesday.
Okay. What do you guys think?
Many times though.
I'd be interested because I thought for a while they should have played Brunt, and he is doing, in my opinion, amazing. Are you guys agreeing with that?
He's been doing better than I expected. The problem for me with Brunt, and it happened again today, is he gets exposed with speed when he draws himself too close to the attacking player.
Yeah.
And you saw that with McCama, who beat him on the right-hand side, and he had to scramble back and make a desperate attack. If Lewis Brunt stayed home more often, I think his game and his stock would rise. But he tends to try to press, and I think that gets him into trouble. He's the only.
So he's young. He's like Rev. He's like Rev, right? He's going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if you were to line up our back line and say they're going to be run at by Taylor Dunn, who do you not want back there? He's my first defender on the list. Is that fair to him? Am I saying he's bad? No, he's very capable. It's just when you've got Scar and Cleworth and Tom O'Connor, who is probably the reason I want him back is if they are coming on the deck, he's our best defender for stuff on the deck. And if they're going to come through the air, Scar is, I think, better than EOC is. EOC is the swap when you want the transition. So that's why for Barnsley, I return back. But what do I know?
Yeah. There's a bit of talk here about Mullin. Let's just have a quick look at this. Mullin is a worry. You can only get so many injuries until your body catches up, but you love the guy, but I think he's done. Ouch.
I totally disagree. I do not think Mullin is done. Do not think.
And then Nick followed up with, I think that may be the case. If he's not informed by January, it's not going to happen for him. I think we need to assume that he won't be an asset for us when we hit the January transfer window.
What do you guys? What do you guys think of that? All those comments.
No, if he's not informed by January, he will end up on the bench. Absolutely, but
he's already on the bench.
I know, but he'll stay there. Is the point? You know, we'll have to be looking at a new striker. Now we may be already, you know, so it may already be a scenario that unless he's absolutely on fire, that we may be taking someone in, assuming we can find them in January. This is always the caveat with the January transfer window. There is no guarantee on anything that you can find what you're looking for at a decent price in January. But assuming you can, we may be doing some upgrades at the front.
Well, we have, I think, the money, so we will be, searching for that. But I still believe in Mullin. I think he is a pest in the backfield. I think he's an absolute pest, and he's had some unlucky kind of like he's close, and it can just flip. It can just flip. So yes, it can go one way or the other for him. I'm not ready to give up on Mullin.
I'm getting increasingly down on Mullin, and I'll tell you why. Is unlike Marriott, I said at the start of the year, it wouldn't surprise me if Marriott led the league and led the team in scoring and took over for Mullin this year. And I think a lot of people thought, no way. And until the injury, that was certainly the case. I mean, it was a minor spinal surgery. It's still a spinal surgery. I cheated. I looked this up because when the game was going on, I went, when was the last time that Mullin had a goal? And we have to go back to the Rotherham United game, which is now 6 games away, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That was his first full 90 minutes. It was 7 games away. He's had 3 full runs, full 90-minute sessions since then in the 74, and he hasn't really looked threatening. And I remember when he came back from his injury after the collision with Bishop last season, he was missing things that you were convinced that he was going to make.
Yes.
But it cured itself after like 3 to 4 games. He's still missing things and not connecting. His touches are off still. And so I don't know if that's lingering injury. I don't know if it's just the pace of the game coming too much to him. The header that he had today, maybe a difficult spot as far as options to go left or right with it. But he went to the one place he shouldn't have gone, which was directly towards the middle of the net where Wickett was standing there and able to collect it in his bread.
Safe place.
And it's just that what distinguished him and led him to that 100 goals in addition to his work rate was he found a way to just eke it that 1 degree or 5 degrees one way or the other, and that is missing.
He was able to bend the ball a certain way, and we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. Now, one thing I will say though is if we're taking in a new striker in January, I'm going to go back to Palmer. If you have an upgraded version of Palmer, we would have scored 3 goals.
Okay. I'm going to step in about Palmer here, because I know Josh has been down on Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
I think Palmer has stepped up this season unbelievably, and the things he has done is amazing. Yes, he's only scored, let's say he's not a striker. The things he's doing, he's a big guy. He has put out, and I am all for Palmer right now. And if you listen to Mark Griffith and everybody's about Palmer. He's done a great job. He really has done a great job. Now, going into January, okay, what do you do with Palmer? I would say we have got to go get a striker, and don't get a $500,000 striker. Go get $1.5 million striker, because that is the intent of the team, to go up. If you just want to stay in the league, we're already staying in League One, right? Are you going to do it or you're not? Put your money where your mouth is, right? Go buy that. But Palmer, absolutely amazing, I think, this season.
Can I ask you a question, Marie?
Yes.
How much more of a ceiling do you think is available for Palmer as far as his ability and his play, given his current form? Like, he's been
I think after this season he's done.
No, and I don't even mean this season. I mean, like, to me, Ollie Palmer, exceptional player, great soldier for the club. He does his job effectively, but to me, this last run of form that he's been on is his ceiling. That's as good as you can get ask Ollie Palmer to perform, and he's been performing to that, and he needs to be commended for it. Where the question for me comes, if you're with me on that, where the question comes is, if he's not able to go above that ceiling, do we need more? And I think the answer to that is obviously yes. And so unfortunately what that means for Palmer is that is a reduction in time and a reduction in opportunity. And I know that that's frustrating, and I know that there's much love for him, and I know that he deserves, as far as heart and effort, a better outcome. But to me, if I'm honestly answering the question, that this is the best that we get, and is it enough? And
I think Palmer has to get us to January.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's my answer to you, Sean. He has to get us to January, and then fine, Ryan Payne, whatever he wants. That's done. You're great. Take your clothing line, whatever. Just get us to January, buddy.
Well, the one thing about Palmer at the moment, though, is a huge amount of what he is doing that people are saying is excellent are not really what he should be doing. They're not the main. They're not the main role of the player.
Isn't that what's so amazing? The position they name you.
True.
You're doing that, but guess what? He's doing all this other stuff. You look at the game today. There was things that he failed at, and there was things he should never have been asked to do. But he did it. I think that's what is a great team. All these guys are all over this field, and
but a lot of other players don't get the same sort of praise for doing things outside of the basics of their job. We're quite good at covering each other. We're quite good at tracking back and defending as a team and all of this sort of stuff. There's a lot of other players that do that and don't get the praise for it because it's considered part of your job. You go above and beyond. You go outside your station. You defend when you have to, and he gets a lot of praise for the fact that he runs back and gets in the box. And now I will give him praise for stuff he's done, and this is why he's getting it. He cleared the ball basically off the line as well tonight. So we needed him in defense, and That's the positive side of his game. But how many times did he have the ball stolen from his feet? How many touches did he miss in good areas? How
Just
many chances? How many
there.
chances did he miss? Now he's making up for it just by pure effort, and we don't really have anybody to replace him with, because I guarantee you, if we did, he would have been replaced. But he's doing a good job otherwise, and I'll give him all the credit for that. Absolutely.
Where I commend Palmer is last season, I think he was under threat. I at times referred to him as a werewolf. He'd only show up once a month under a full moon and he'd be a beast and he'd disappear again. I don't think that that's been true this year. I think he's been more consistent in his play. I think he's been closer to his ceiling for a regular period of time. Where I understand Josh's criticism and others that are still a little bit down on him is not because they don't like the player, not because they don't think he's providing. It's just because there's a hope for more from whoever's in that position.
Well, the biggest criticism because he's named a striker.
He is a striker.
So, I know.
I'm sorry, he's not named a striker. His job is to
he's a striker,
score
right?
or assist. In his role, a lot of assisting too. So he has 0 assists.
So would you say, this is kind of a strange thing, but last year, Lee did something for the team that eventually got his promotion. Would you say that Palmer is doing the same thing to get us to promotion? That abstract thing in a team that you can't define.
It's a difficult question because I think that we have the capacity to get to promotion with somebody else in that position. And I don't think it's just on him.
Who else, Sean? Right now, not January. Right now.
Honestly, I like Bodverson, and he gets assists and he has better vision. He scores at a rate that is probably slightly less than Palmer, to be completely fair, but he plays a different style of game. I think that's at the moment Palmer's doing enough. We're getting the results, and so you stay with him. But if you would have talked to me before this last 2-game run, I probably would have said let's lean on Bodverson a little bit heavier. I also think that we made the mistake in the last game, and the only criticism I have of Parky in the 3-0 win is he had Mo Fall on the bench as an option, and we're up 3-0, and you want to get the young guy minutes to get him stuff. I think he should have come in 70th minute, 75th minute, and got a real run at it to see if he.
So when you think of that, though,
question.
When you think of that, Parky obviously said, Bodverson isn't going to make the bench.
It's a little early to say that.
Yeah.
For today, the game, he said Palmer is going to go 90 minutes. With not having Bodverson on the bench, he's saying Palmer is going to go 90 minutes.
No, not quite.
Well,
Fall was getting ready. Fall was getting ready to come on. But it looks like with the final pressure that was been placed on us, he decided not to pull Palmer out because of his defensive duties or whatever, and the fact of how much pressure there was. You don't like changing players and dropping them right in the middle of that without being fresh.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
As soon as I put this hat on, everything changed, and that's why he stayed on for longer than he thought.
Okay, so let's move on from this. But before we do, quick answer: in January, if we're buying only one major new striker, do you want to replace Palmer or do you want to replace the Mullin role?
Well, those are 2 different types.
Oh, yeah, we get 2 different types of strikers.
Well, okay,
a better version of each. Which one do you replace?
You've got to go better version on Mullin. And I say that because Palmer's still getting it done, and he deserves that compliment and praise. And Mo Fall, you went out and you paid big bucks to have him there to grow into the space. You need him to do that. We don't have, after Mullin, somebody who slides into that role, in my eyes.
Yeah, but the thing that Sean I have is I love Palmer. Obviously, I've been praising him. But you're getting into the back end of the season. He's going to get tired. He's older. He's going to get tired. This is not going to work, right? It's not going to work.
But if you look at the...
Now, is Bodvarsson the guy that's going to get us through the rest of the season without a Palmer?
Well, you have options in that position, though. You have, if not Palmer, you've got Bodvarsson. If not Bodvarsson, I mean, Fletcher, you'd think is, I mean, he's had a setback and who knows exactly how, but you've got him as a potential option. You've got Mo Fall. They can all play in that role. If not Mullin, who fits in there?
So should we buy 2 strikers? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
we should,
is my answer.
Yes, but
the question was, if you're only getting one.
We got $3 million. Let's spread it around and buy 2.
I think we should be. You want my honest assessment? Is if we can get through the month of December and with a game against, I'll call them lower third teams, and we can be in and around the hunt for the automatic promotions, it behooves us to make moves like Birmingham did and start to really open it up. And I would be talking in the range of $5 million. And you can go and get some people then.
Which is a gamble, because look what Birmingham has done, and they're in 3rd right now. I mean, if I were Birmingham and I spent that much money, I would be embarrassed.
No, it's different than North America, where you've got salary caps, and it depends, and damn the Yankees and how much money they spend and all those sorts of things. In football, it's all about the 11 people that you put on the pitch, is how I understand how fans respond to it. And so for me, if we really want to have a chance to make the Prem, you can't go into the championship with the structure of their salary cap, which takes that 3-year rolling average of loss, and not take advantage of the opportunity like Birmingham did and go out and spend some money. So am I saying you drop 20? No, I think that's ridiculous. But 5 to 10, I think you go and do that. Eat your losses in this one. Chase down the auto promotion. Bite the bullet if you don't make it. But if you make it, you've given yourself some flexibility to try and go and spend, because you're going to be anticipated to lose 11 million quid a year. And so why not set yourself up so that if you've got that, you're able to use that loss to knowing that you've already bankrolled $5 million worth of talent. And so that's what I'm excited to see happen in January if we're able to hold on. I'm expecting and hoping that there's some eye-opening moves. And so I think you have to spend in this league if you want to move up from the championship and into the Prem. Because otherwise we're going to just get caught in the weeds in the, searching in 17th and 16th in the championship, which, hey, that's still exceptional. Let's be honest. I think for any Wrexham fan to be able to sit there and say, if you had a home in the lower third of the championship for a number of seasons, would you be happy? And you'd have a lot of people nodding their head in agreement. But if the goal is the Prem, you got to spend. And I think we do it now.
Yeah, and plus I don't think Rob and Ryan are thinking we're going to go into the championship league and be scrapping. They want to at least go in. We're mid-table.
Yeah, they want to be comfortable in that first year. Comfortable. Yeah. And something else to let's not forget here as well. Other teams are allowed to spend in January as well. Mm-hmm. So it may not be too surprising if Birmingham re-up with another player in January, if a suitable one becomes available. And Wycombe Wanderers as well, there's no reason that they can't spend some money. They've got a new owner. They got availability there as well. We could all be thinking the same thing. There's only 2 automatic spots, and there are other teams that could spend as well for that second half of the season. So we may really have no choice.
For the January, that we go for 2 strikers and a midfielder.
I'd be very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
If we can find the right ones.
I gotta go.
Okay.
I got work stuff and obligations and a kid coming home from school and stuff. So
no problem.
Much appreciation for the invitation, and kudos to the local pundit for continuing to do what you guys do in helping guide people to the club and informing them of everything that's going on. Much appreciation, and thanks to you. So
thank you, Sean.
Okay, take care, guys.
Okay, so comment here from George. Big Daddy is only signed through January, so we will have to re-sign him if he is going to spell Palmer later in the season or take over from Palmer. Mullin's type is our priority.
So
Okay.
the answer is, do we re-sign Bud Bartson?
Yes, that's an option. Basically, will we re-sign him or not, depending on how he's playing, how he's fit into the team, and what the values are at that point. But if not, then he's gone too, and we have less options.
Yeah, my thing right now is just getting to January, and I'm sure, obviously, Parky and his team is looking at January and who's out there, who's available, and how much money do we have. I think we have money. The question is, how much money will Wickham have, and how much money will Birmingham have? That's going to be, and who's the smartest? Who's the smartest on getting the right players? I think
Yeah.
we have an advantage that Wrexham is on the rise. I think players will look at, okay, who's going to give me the most visibility as a player? You know, their career. So I think that's going to be important.
Yeah, it is going to be important, and it's also kind of the standard. So let's say we do go out and spend in January, then what that gives us is a shot at the top two, um, which maybe is a little bit unrealistic in general. Now we've been playing really well, but we that will certainly put us near the top of the table towards the end of the season. So we have a playoff shot, and if we don't get out of the playoffs, we would be one of like the top two expected the following season. So we would be looking for auto promotion in year two,
Yeah, but think
based on
about,
what we've done this year.
Patty, think about how many teams have said, "Oh, we've got next
Oh
season,"
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
none have failed. It's
yeah. We should go for it.
Huddersfield today. Huddersfield today. All of a sudden, they're up there. Where did they come from? Right? It's like, well, everybody wants it, that golden thing. But I really believe if we're getting to the point, and I think that Rob and Ryan are at the point where we have a real shot at the championship, that they're going to spend the money. Now, that comes into play as we've seen other teams spend the money and it's not worked out, right? So we've got to be very wise about how we spend the money. And I think Parky has shown to me, he's done a couple that I'm like, I don't think that's worked out, but he's pretty good at picking the players and saying, that's the one I want.
Yeah, and someone has made a little comment here that maybe we can talk about for a minute. Um, so just two comments there I just showed. So we had Will Iambo, we have all the monies. And Wayne says, I don't think we should use the word we when it comes to spending. It's very easy to spend other people's money. It's the club's money and we're part of the club.
It is other people's
It is,
money,
yeah.
and understand what you're saying.
But it's just a
It's easy to say,
phrase.
oh, spend 1.5 million on that player, right? But the goal, their goal, and their dream has been to get this team to a certain level,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I think they're willing to do it.
yeah, that's the point. I don't think we're being ridiculous with the idea of asking them to spend 1.5 million on somebody when it was mentioned that they were willing to spend about 1 million in the summer. They just didn't end up with the player they wanted, so they didn't spend it basically.
Yeah, and that's a
So
good
I
proof.
don't think it's ridiculous to say now in January, with the position we're potentially in, to spend a little bit more than the million on a top end striker. You
Yeah.
know, so I don't think we're being ridiculous. We're not asking for 4 or 5 million or whatever. But so CP Marks here. Do you have any thoughts on Louis Barry availability during the transfer window. Aston Villa may recall him and sell him in January. They have done so before, maybe. Now, that's a really interesting one because it would not be surprising. For Stockport, I would be very worried about losing Louis Barry in January, because absolutely a team could come in with decent money to buy him.
I think Stockport is too high in the table right now that they're not going to do that. That's my opinion, but
Aston Villa won't sell him because they're too high.
They're not going to let him go. I mean, that's what I would do.
Stockport have got nothing to do with it, unfortunately, because Stockport have a loan with Aston Villa. So the way it works is if Villa want him back, they take him.
Now I get it.
This is why the phrase "never fall in love with a loan player."
Yeah.
They get stolen right out from underneath you. Because the talk was that he should be going to a championship team this season. He should not be going back to Stockport. But Stockport apparently looked after him well, and he was injured for most of the season. So he kind of went back maybe to prove himself again, and he has. You know, I think definitely by January he will have proved himself that he's too good for League One. So the question is, are they going to allow him to do the full year and become the League One record goal scorer potentially, if he can keep it for the entire season, before selling him in the summer, or if they get a good deal, will they just do it now in January? So teams could try and poach him.
Paddy, I'm sorry. So if you've got a loan player, right? Can you buy them out? Can you buy them?
Can who buy them? Stockport or anybody?
Yes, Stockport. Can they say, you know, we're going to buy them?
Yes, assuming they can afford the deal.
Do you think they would?
No, they don't have the money.
Afford it?
Yeah, they won't spend that money on him.
So what's his worth? What's your value on him?
I heard rumors about 5 million. I don't know if that's correct. But you see, here,
do that.
Well, see, here's the issue: is once a player kind of steps up and shows how good he is, you're now talking about championship level teams, and for them, spending 5 million is nothing.
Yeah,
because they're willing to spend 25 million on players, 30 million sometimes, you know, depending. So yeah, paying 5 million wouldn't be a problem. That's why some people have come up with figures of like 3, 4, 5 million for Barney.
Yeah.
And it's not out of the realms of possibility, because certainly they would need to spend something like that to maybe consider it and turn his head and whatever.
How does okay, in January, how does international players come into the flavor? We say we want somebody from the United States or from another country or anybody, other team. How does that play into the January window?
The same as in the summer. In theory, you can bring in international players.
But doesn't it take a certain amount of time to go through the visas and all that stuff?
It's harder. It's definitely harder. Yeah. International players are harder to work with, especially at the lower level clubs and stuff. Visas can be difficult. All the paperwork is a pain in the ass. So it's not done that often.
Do you think Wrexham or, you know, we would be looking at international players?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so.
So we could have a surprise, maybe.
You could, yeah. They could have been working on something for quite a long while, yeah. That's very possible. And the thing is, it's going to be a big deal when we bring in that first international player. So my thinking on it is they're not, for want of a better word, they're not going to waste the marketing opportunity by bringing in someone average when they do it. I think so. I think that's the point, is the benefit to the club just in the marketing internationally. When they do it, they will want someone of significant name or skill level or whatever, so that they can show them off. And at
Do you
least
have
try and save
do
money
you
or
have
whatever.
do you have an MLS player that you think would fit?
I don't. Aaron would be the man. He has been looking at them and he has lists sorted of the players. But yes, potentially the likes of an MLS player who's finished their season or near finished their season or whatever, potentially could come over.
When does their season end? MLS?
I think it is late in the year.
Okay, so they're still fit. So
Well,
they're
that's the other thing as well. They'll be coming off a full season. So if they haven't been injured or whatever, they should, in theory, be tired, but at full fitness. Yeah.
that's interesting.
And as well, in that scenario, like you're dealing with clubs who are finished their season, whereas over here, it's hard to do business in January because very often the players you want are the players the teams don't want to sell. In which case, you very often have to pay big money to the player to turn their head so that they say they want to go. And then you have to compensate the team significantly so that they don't dig their heels in and say you're not going. In which case you're often paying a little bit over the odds.
So we're in League One, right? So
Yeah.
on the bench in a Premier League team, there's probably some awesome players, right? Who are
Yes.
not getting time.
Yes.
What are their thoughts? I'm dreaming of being a Premier League player, or you come up and you say, you got Wrexham here with visibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we going after those guys?
Potentially, yes. But the money thing is also potentially an issue because even bench players on the lower teams in the Prem are on good money
How much
generally.
do you have an idea how much they're making?
Well, let's talk about AO for a moment. Um, AO wasn't on the bench for Arsenal. Now Arsenal have been a massive team, but he was a couple of choices down in their league. He was being loaned out, and the rumors were that he was on 18,000 a week with Arsenal, and that he had to take a pay cut to come to us.
Yeah.
So about 12-ish, I think. 12, 13, 14, whatever, maybe. At the outside. So you don't want to break that too much either. So what you're really saying is take a chance on us. We got the profile. You'll be visible. You'll make a name for yourself. Come help us finish this season. Get promoted immediately. Your pay will increase when we jump into the championship. And there's potentially bonuses, which is another way they can do it. They can turn around to a player and say, look, you come join us now in January and take the chance on us. If we go up, we'll give you a big bonus, whatever that is. Be it 100 grand or 150 grand. They could do anything they want. In which case, if we don't go up, then they don't get the bonuses and they don't get their pay increases. A lot of it could be based on promotion,
Yeah.
But it's about convincing the player. If they're not getting the time, they need to go somewhere. Are they willing to come down? And it has been stated recently that they have said that there are players who will potentially come down to play for Wrexham in League One that would never play for another League One team.
Yeah, I believe it. Okay, let's talk about Barnsley.
Okay.
Are we going to start the same?
Parky doesn't like to change too much, and if it's working, he likes to stay. He likes to keep things the same. So I would not be surprised if he keeps it the same.
So are you saying Bud Barson is not on the bench?
But Vartan might be on the bench.
Okay, who's off the bench?
Maybe Fall.
Interesting.
But I would be very interested if he was not on the bench again. So that would make me more interested, because there's a long break now before that next match, because we've no Saturday game and it's next Tuesday. It's a full week again. So if Budvarsson does not make the bench in the next match, then I would be kind of maybe Parky's thinking that he's not fitting right, or something's not working, or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think one match is too early to say that, because very often if someone just has a hard time in training or gets a knock or whatever, then you can take them off. Especially now that Mullin and Fall are kind of ready to be on the bench.
Did you ever see that? Think that Mullin is ready to be on the bench? Come on.
Well, from his injury, obviously, yes. Again, this is another one. It's now very interesting. When is Mullin going to get a start?
Yeah, that's going to be.
When is he going to be in the lineup first?
And he's going to have 10 minutes to prove himself.
Yeah.
Bringing you on in the last 10 minutes and say, okay, score a goal. Then you're back in the team.
Yeah.
Gosh, a long way. Okay, I have got to go, so I am going to do a local pundit thing that says, on that bombshell.
Okay, have a good night on that bombshell. Okay, ladies and gents, we have hit an hour. So, we have two options. Does anybody have a really interesting topic to talk about? Because we just did a long little talk on January. And if there's nothing very, very interesting, then I think we will end it here. So what do we think? Lots of comments here. I'll just flow through some of them. Big Buck, I go big or go home. I've adopted that philosophy in just about all that I do, and it certainly fits with Wrexham this season and beyond. Correct. At JP Lamb, I think they would buy Barry if they could, and if it doesn't affect them regarding their FFP. This is an interesting one that everybody kind of talks about. FFP doesn't really affect us at this level. It only starts coming in properly from the Championship up. And Wrexham has a significant income stream. We don't know exactly what it's at because it's behind schedule before we see hints of it. But we have significant revenue. So we are not overly worried about FFP rules. Birmingham obviously are going massive, so they are trying to get it in this season, in which case it is not counted in the same way next season, and there is a financial benefit. Now, I'm partially hoping that Rob and Ryan have seen that and a lot of discussion about how much they've spent on players, that they may also consider that it's worth that little bit extra boost in their accounting for the future in Championship if they do it now. And spend that little bit more to keep it outside the Championship. So we shall see how that goes. January could be a big, big month. Big Buckeye again. I'd look at the youth/academy kids from the EPL clubs, at least for a loan, or maybe even for a loan to buy. Yeah, I agree. But my position on that is we should be doing that in this summer, not particularly in January. Because unless it's someone like Louis Barry, unless we are pulling him away from Stockport, getting a better deal done with Aston Villa in order to steal him away, then I wouldn't be chancing academy kids unless they have proven themselves already. Because we're at the point that we need proven talent, because we don't have a lot of time. From January, it's only got our last 5 months until the end of the season. So we shouldn't really be risking it. That's just my point on it. Now, anybody is better than nothing. If we can't find the right people, by all means, take a shot. Get someone in loan, whatever. I know Parky doesn't like loans, but yeah, we'll see what can be done. Will.I.am.Bo says that the MLS has just ended. 4 teams are still in the playoffs. Okay. So yeah, that's hitting their break. They're just finishing up now in the MLS. So then they have a little bit of time, and then we have January. Now, anybody who is in talks for January internationally, if we are in talks with anybody, they will know about it already. So they'll know about the end of the season. They will know to keep themselves fit. They will know that they're in discussion for starting again in January with us, if it goes ahead. So that wouldn't be too much of an issue there. JP Lamb, I think Mullin has a goal. The chances have been getting in the last 2 games, coming off the bench at 70 minutes, and his positive smiles feel like he's cooking up the form. That's one thing I will say. Yes, this match he looked happier. He looked like he was getting closer to his shots. He didn't look like such a baby, for want of a better word, when he's missed stuff. So yeah, he seems to be getting there. I do agree. I think he will score a couple of goals soon. Scott, maybe not so much. I was surprised he brought Mullin on, considering he had the option of Howard on the bench. Ooh, spicy. Mary, let's get Mullin cooking in the cup games. He can try and gain confidence again. Scott liked that joke about Mullin, I think, or JP. So JP laughed at his own. Oh, hang on, Scott. Yeah, sorry. JP liked Scott's joke. Yeah, that's it. Okay, Mary, who is top 3 at this point? Okay, let's have a look. Let's bring it up, and that'll probably be the end then. Here we go. Let's zoom in so you can see it. Boom, 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 boom. Too much. There we go. Okay, touch in buttons. Dun, 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 dun. So first is Wycombe Wanderers, played 16, 38 points. We are second, played 17 on 34 points. So Wycombe have a bit of a jump on us. They are 4 points ahead with a game in hand. They need to start dropping sometime soon. Birmingham City then are in third place behind us on 33 points, just 1 point behind, but they hold 2 matches on us, 2 matches in hand. So that's a potential of 39 points for Birmingham. Then we have Stockport County on 30 points, Huddersfield Town on 29, Barnsley on 27, equal with Reading and Bolton. Lincoln City on 26. And then Mansfield Town are down in 10th, but they also are on 15 matches. So they are 2 behind us. 6 points gives them 30. They potentially can end up around here. So Stockport are actually doing technically better than Mansfield now because they've played their matches and they're 6 points ahead. So a bit of back and forth there between Stockport and Mansfield, our old rivals from League 2. Nice to see. Then down the bottom of the table, let's have a quick look. We have Crawley Town have just escaped the relegation at the moment, but they are on 17 matches with 16 points. Then we have Leyton Orient, 15 points, Cambridge 13 points, Shrewsbury 11, Burton Albion in 8th. So Burton Albion are in real trouble. Looks like they are absolutely going to be going down this season. But all those 4 in the relegation spots at the moment have a game in hand on Crawley. And 2 of them, Leyton and Cambridge, could in theory jump. Crawley. Frankie S. Let's stop this screen. Did I listen to the Shrewsbury podcast with Ryan Barnett from last year? Maybe. I can't recall it off the top of my head. So I may have seen some of it. Glenda, I was talking about Stockport, and we can only spend 60% or something like that of revenue in this league. Yeah, technically, however, there are other rules around that. You can spend anything you want, like Birmingham. It just has to be a payment from the owners into the club, because you need to provide the cash. You can't put debt on the club to do it. But if you basically gift the money, it is acceptable as revenue in that scenario. So you can spend anything you want. Looks like we have a bot. Okay, I'm going to ignore the bot. Scott is saying, love to know what Toure is like. It's really to agree to let someone train with us till January. He must be signing. Oh, it's unusual. It's unusual, probably, to agree. Yeah, that is an interesting one, having someone train with us. So it looks like there's a lot of potential there. Absolutely. One of Parky's, okay. Another one from Frankie. One of Parky's best friend, Dylan Kerr, did scouting for Wrexham in the past. He was supposed to be working in New York. Could a signing come from that area? I'm sure we have links to multiple people out into America, into the MLS. Absolutely, you got to be expecting that they're looking at the players in the MLS, and at some point will do a signing from international, most likely from America. I think the marketing and the optics and everything that come with it will be very, very valuable. And players from the MLS could be very good value. Different style of football, maybe a little bit, but very good value potentially. Yeah, it's got really strange to agree to let someone train till January. And Nicky had just realized he had hit pause and was 15 minutes behind everyone else. Just ignore his comments. Okay, well, we are at the end of the comments, guys, pretty much. Glenda, Birmingham got a balloon payment when they came down, though. If you're talking about a parachute payment, no, they did not. There are no parachute payments at this level. Parachute payments are only from the Prem down to the Championship. And also, Scott is reminding here, we're on for a Mexican, surely, with the link to Nexus. Yeah, with the purchase, Necaxa, I think it's called. Probably a auto spell there. Necaxa, it was the name, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we have a partial ownership there. It would be very interesting if we take someone from Necaxa or someone from that area due to links through the club over there. Also would like to see that too. Also with the fact that they're probably doing a welcome to Necaxa is how they announced it, and that Rob and Ryan are going to do it, have some interest in it, maybe their production company or whoever is doing it. It would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it, to have a player sent from Necaxa over to Wrexham as part of the show, and then that player could end up on both shows. So that would make a lot of sense. Excuse me for coughing. So on that bombshell, are we getting a player from Necaxa in January? We are out. Take care, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.